You're listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast with Ken Lucci of Driving Transactions and James Blaine of PAX Training. Learn how you can build a thriving transportation business with real profits, repeat clients, and enterprise value. And now for your hosts, Ken and James.
So welcome to another exciting edition of the Ground Transportation Podcast. We are really super excited to see the subscriber growth of the past few weeks. We know that you enjoyed the discussion with Matt Dawes. I think you're going to enjoy the discussion today. I am unbelievably pleased to have two of my favorite people in the transportation business on with me today, Tami Rutter and Dawson Rutter from Commonwealth Worldwide. Commonwealth is based in Boston, but they're in their happy place in Arizona.
Yay.
So I asked you to come on the podcast because I really wanted your update and feedback on the affiliate side of the business. It seems to me that the small operators are exploding into the industry, and I really wanted your take on that. But first, we always ask, how did you get into this crazy business? And I would love to hear from both of you.
Well, I was a client back in, 2001. I was running the travel office at Genzyme, and Commonwealth was our per service.
Genzyme is a biotech company in Cambridge.
Yeah, it's a biotech. It's Sanofi now.
Yep.
So Sanofi bought them out.
Okay.
So I worked for them running their travel office for a few years, and I was in corporate travel for 13 years before this.
Okay.
And Dawson approached me and asked me to come work for Commonwealth, and I had a long 2-hour interview with him.
Okay.
It was great. And then I signed on, and then I cried for about the first 6 months of the job.
Why?
Because I came from a corporate background. Everything was corporate.
Yes.
I mean, there was no time off forms. It was mayhem. People were fighting. It was insane.
Yep.
It was not what I signed on for.
The limousine industry is a little bit less than the corporate. Yes. We do a great job serving corporate, but behind the scenes, isn't it kind of like being inside the kitchen of a fantastic restaurant? The meal looks fantastic at the end. Yep. What year was this?
Yeah, exactly.
What year did you start?
I started in May of 2004. So I've been it'll be 21 years.
21 years. And
so easy.
So tell us about Commonwealth. I mean, in my mind, Commonwealth is absolutely, without question, one of the best quality boutique global networks in the industry. But give us a background. Give us a background on Commonwealth, how it started, and then give us a background on, what you specialize in.
Well, why don't you talk about how it started?
Okay. So I had been a cab driver in Boston in the 1970s, and for about 10 years off and on. And a friend of mine in the cab business got a job as a chauffeur with a company in Boston. And he talked me into going to work for them. I went to work for them for a little less than a year and didn't like the management and loved the business, but I really didn't like the management very much. So I decided to buy a car and see what I could do. So I bought one car in 1982. Our first year in business, we did $20,000 in revenue. So I was driving a cab. That's all during that first year. And then we got a good break. I met, the first week I was in business, I got a job that was driving the new senior editor from Boston Magazine. And he was moving to Boston from Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for Scripps. He was moving to Boston, and his wife loved Cincinnati and didn't want to move to Boston, so he hired me to show them around Boston and the areas and where they could find a place to live. And so I took them out for the whole day. Did a sightseeing tour of Boston, Cambridge, Lexington and Concord, Marblehead, and the last stop was in Concord. And they were both writers, and so the last stop of the day, I took them to Author's Ridge in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery in Concord, where Nathaniel Hawthorne Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thoreau,
Yep.
and Louisa May Alcott are all buried side by side
Wow.
on top of Arthur's Ridge. And I told them to go up, check it out, and they came back down and they were speechless. I mean, they'd had, it seemed like an epiphany going to see these 4 famous writers all buried right next to each other in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery. So I get back, dropped them off. He said, thanks very much. I got a nice letter from him a couple of days later. And that December, I was driving a cab and it was a little snowy and bad weather. And I'd gotten the worst cab in the fleet. And the fleet was Boston Cab, which was Brett Barinholtz's parents' company.
Yes, I heard that story. Yes.
And so I get this call for Brady in the South End, 55 Warren Street in the South End. So I pull up in front, and out walks the senior editor of Boston Magazine. He gets in the back of the car, and he's going to Cambridge. And he said, "What's wrong with this car? It stinks of fumes, and it's terrible." I go, "Well, Mr. Brady, I don't get the choice of cars that I can drive. This is what they give me, and I have to take what they give me." And he said, "Do you know me?" I said, "Well, yeah, it's Dawson. I drove you with your wife last June." "Dawson, hey, how are you? How you doing? How's everything? How's your company going?" I said, "Well, it's slow, but I'm still driving a cab for my living." And we talked on the way over to Cambridge, and he was going to visit his fiancée. His wife had decided to stay in Cincinnati.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. And so he got out. He goes, "Good luck. Nice to see you. Hope everything goes well for you." So the following April, I was hired by Scott Solembrino.
Sure.
This is before Dave L. He was Fifth Avenue Limo.
Sure.
And he was doing the second annual Kiss 108 annual party
So fun.
at Boston.
Huge FM radio station in Boston.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I used to go to that party every year. It was so fun.
Yep.
And so he had a bunch of cars for this party, just shuttling people around. So I'm sitting at the front. I'm at the top of the line of about 20 limousines. And I look up and out walks John Brady again.
Sure.
And Scott goes, "Mr. Brady, would you like a car?" And he goes, "Yeah." And Brady goes, "I'll take Dawson." And Scott's going, No. So he gets in the car and he's with his girlfriend, and we drive. It was just a short hop over to the Copley Plaza. He goes, "How you doing? Everything good, I said, "Well, I still have one. I just bought my second car." And I said, "It's picking up a little bit, but, we have a long way to go." So I dropped him at the Copley, and he said, "Well, good to see you, and, Godspeed." And a couple months later, I always had a little classified ad in Boston Magazine. And I knew the girls there. And I called them up. They called me up one day, and they go, "Congratulations, you're best of Boston, 1983. It was unbelievable. My business tripled in 1 month. And I bought my third car, my fourth car, my fifth car in a span of about 2 months.
So let's unpack this for a second. First of all, you had an unbelievably good rapport with a customer in your car the first time. You showed them around the area. You created the relationship. You started to advertise your business, and then you got an award.
Yeah.
And people started doing business with you because of the credibility of that award.
Yes.
I mean, that absolutely says one ride can change the trajectory of your business, no question.
Yeah. And when we had our 25th anniversary, I invited my human resources employee had worked for an advertising agency, but she went out and she found John Brady and invited him to come to our 25th anniversary, which we had at Boston Symphony Orchestra, because we were a big donor and supporter of the BSO.
Sure.
And so he came and he had no idea what had happened over the past 25 years. And I said, "My whole life I owe to you, for giving me that one jump start."
No, think about it. If you didn't make the impression and you didn't go the extra mile, first of all, I don't know how you knew that all of those authors were buried in that cemetery. That's number one.
I'm a reader.
Okay.
He's a historian.
Exactly.
To an extreme.
Exactly. I think I knew that. Now, we won't go into the fact that Scott Celembrino had hired you as an affiliate, and this guy knew you, right?
Did he pay
But-
you?
Actually, it took him like a year to pay me. So I was one of the first ones on the slow pay plan.
That you were on the program, no question
But he
about it.
did pay me.
Yep. But so the award, I mean, the awards matter, and the reputation in the community absolutely mattered because,
Yeah.
I mean, to get that award, Best of Boston, I mean, we did in Tampa, and it absolutely became a badge of honor. So what year
Yeah.
was that? 19?
The Best of Boston Award was 1983, and I got it again in 84, and I've had 6 or 7 since.
Wow. And so you've gone from 20,000 a year to,
Yeah.
let's just say between 25 and 35 million. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an incredible ride. And you went from the front seat of the car into being the president of Commonwealth. So there's no reason that can't happen to the next generation of
Absolutely.
operator.
It's all about hard work and putting in the hours and putting in the time.
That's right.
I mean, you have to really dedicate yourself. And I think that's true of any business, that when people start into business, they absolutely have to dedicate themselves to the business. And there's no time, it's not a 9 to 5 thing. It's every day, all day, 7 days a week in the beginning. I mean, I started in 1982 with one car, and in 1998, we hit 1.7 million.
Wow.
16 years later.
Wow. But think about that.
And then
at some point, I'm going to graph that for you because that's a meteor. Think about that. 98, it took you 16 years to get to 1.7 million.
Right.
Wow. So tell me something. What role or when did you start doing the global work, and how did you start the network? That was
Well,
Tami.
there used to be a guy, Superior Limo, in L.A. Ray, I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
he
he
left
used
the
to
business
tell
a
me-
while ago. Yep.
Yeah, and he did farm out. He encouraged me to do farm out.
Yeah.
And he said it's easy. It's easy to do. You make money on it. It's really a good way to grow your business. And I kind of said, I'm not going to do that. I just, I got my own niche here. I'm fine with what I've got. But it kind of got in the back of my mind. And then I hired Ralph Duncan, who had worked for Dave L,
Sure.
had worked for Clary.
Sure.
And I brought him in, and he sort of, he had accounts that were nationwide accounts.
Yep.
And I hired a couple of salespeople at the same time because in 1998, Carrie approached me to buy me, and it wasn't a lot of money.
Yep.
And I said, if I'm ever going to be able to retire in this business, I'm going to have to grow this business and make it worth something.
Yep.
So I hired Ralph. I hired a couple of other salespeople, and we really started to grow. We're growing millions of dollars a year.
God, it was
But
insane.
where would you be if you didn't take the leap to do national and global work? As a regional, how big do you think you could have gotten?
I don't know,
5
30,
million?
30, 40 cars.
Right.
Yeah, maybe
That's the number.
maybe-
It's
maybe-
5 million.
5
exactly.
million. Yeah,
So-
I would easily say 5.
So look, you've been involved on the NLA. You both go to all the conferences. I've been gone down the hallway with you guys. You can't walk down past 3 people who don't stop and pay homage. How did how,
Just stop and say hello.
Slow down. But we
Stop.
know, we've been in this business for so long that a lot of these people are our friends.
you know what?
You
I said that last night. I had dinner with a great guy, with a great operator. And
Yeah.
I've been in the security business. I've been in other businesses, and I've never seen the camaraderie of this business.
Yeah.
So
Right.
the question I have is, how important was it for you to become instrumental in the NLA and go to these national conferences? How important
I
was
didn't
it?
start even
You
going
didn't
to
even
the,
go.
and I wasn't even a member of the NLA till the mid '90s.
Yep.
And you never
Okay.
went to any of the
And
conferences.
so I got to meet people, and I took some of the went to some of the seminars and stuff like that, which were helpful along the way.
Yep. Yep.
You were in a 20 group,
I was in a 20 group.
Yep.
the original
I was-
20 group.
Yeah.
Yep.
With Tom Nazis, starting in 2001.
Highly recommend 20 groups. I really do.
100%. I I spoke yesterday in Wednesday in Delray at a 20 group, and it was all about financial metrics and KPIs. It was extremely good. But to see everybody in that room talking, and they go around the room and they say, okay, this is what I'm struggling with. What do you guys think? And it becomes almost like your board of directors. So
Great.
you would definitely do it again. You would definitely become, if you were starting out, you would join the 20 group. You'd go to the conferences. How important were the conferences in building your network and meeting these people face to face?
Well,
For me, it was the most important
Yeah.
for me. Especially trying to build the network. And when I started, we were doing a little bit of work
Right.
in 2004. And
Yep.
then by 2006, it was booming. You
Once-
had your major cities in place, but I'd have to go to the shows to find somebody in China and London and
Right.
Kazakhstan. I mean, even
Right.
we had to go to the shows in order to meet the international operators at least.
Right. And
Then
when
you get
did
involved.
when did your revenue pass 50 more than 50% is global work?
More than probably I would say 60 now.
That's incredible.
Easy.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
It's a great network.
but how would you have built that network if you didn't go to the conferences?
You can't. There's no way you can. And building a network is about loyalty. It's about trust. It's about relationships.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to have a relationship with somebody when you have not met them.
Right.
And then you meet them and you find that, their company meets the goals of Commonwealth. And,
Right.
they have the same vision and the same vision of what we expect, to deliver to our clients. So you have to go to the shows. And you do learn a lot of things in the seminars. You really do. I mean, I've gotten so much information just doing site visits.
Yep.
And going to other people's companies and finding out what they do. We don't do everything the best. There's
Right.
a lot of things we should be doing. You learn that from other people and other operators.
So I'm not going to ask you who your clients are. I know you've got some unbelievable on the finance side
We have
of the
great
world,
clients.
and you've got some pretty high touch clients. So
Very high tech.
what do you expect from your affiliates in relationship to taking care of your customers? What do you look for from an affiliate rather than, hey, listen, there's a guy with a car and a chauffeur. What do you expect them to do as far as your high touch clients?
Well, let me tell you one of the big things that we have always appreciated from our affiliates, and that's people who speak to us properly on the telephone and aren't arrogant. This industry used to be filled with operators who used to, if you gave them a job, they acted like they were doing you a favor.
Yep.
That was
Yep.
rampant in this industry. And luckily over the last 30 years or so, people have smartened up about that. But
Yep.
they used to treat us like, we were or something,
Yep. Why do I want your work?
Well, what I would look for in an affiliate is what I would look for from my own staff.
Right.
So that's exactly, that's basically what it comes down to is I'm looking at ABC Limousine and San Francisco as Commonwealth.
Right.
San Francisco,
And they have,
how we would do things.
so do you find that, because I've used your chauffeurs in and out of Boston, do you find it difficult to get the same level of in-car service around the globe? And do you have to work with the affiliates, or do you find that the ones that you choose, they get it?
Both.
It's both. It's both. There's people that just get it right away. And we're a different niche in the industry. So most of our work, we do a lot of roadshow work. And that's not something that you can just hand over to somebody without you're setting them up for failure. And why would you want to do that?
Tell the audience what a roadshow is for those operators that are younger and don't know it.
It's an investment bank
banking
taking
company.
management teams from top, 500, Fortune 500 companies around the country
To raise money.
to raise money with institutional investors. And what they do is they take the management teams, CEO, CFO, CIO,
All of
and
them.
they take them to investors. They have a book that they take with them that shows what the company's doing, what the matrix are of the company.
What it's worth.
And they do IPOs, they do non-deal roadshows, they do
deal road
fixed
shows.
income roadshows. So
The deal road shows are probably the most important, but they're all important. So if the chauffeur is late, even 10 minutes late, you just threw off their entire day. So
because they're visiting multiple possible
have
investors in the market.
a window to get from place to place to place.
Pretty
So
important
I'll
stuff.
tell you a funny story. When Steve Wynn was raising money to build the Encore back in the 90s, or no, I guess it was in the early 2000s, and the Baltimore Sniper was active at that time. Remember the guy who was shooting
Oh God,
people
yes,
out of the trunk of his car?
Yeah.
yes.
And we had Steve Wynn and his team on a road show that day in Baltimore, and at 6:30 in the morning, the Baltimore Sniper struck, and they shut down every road within 50 miles of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore to try and catch this guy. Luckily, we already had one car at the hotel in Baltimore, or he was close by and was able to get to the hotel. And there were like 3 or 4 cars or 5 cars or something for that group that day. And we got 2 cars to Steve Wynn and got him to all of his appointments that day. But he was pissed. He didn't have the other 3 cars, you know?
Sure.
In spite of the fact that the roads were all closed for virtually the entire day.
Sure.
But that's the importance of these road trips.
Yeah.
I don't know how many millions of dollars he was raising, but each stop can be multiple millions of dollars.
So if they miss that meeting, that's going to throw off the whole day, or they may not even, they're probably not even going to be able to get another appointment again, on their schedule.
That's definitely high stakes. I mean, that and board meetings. That's why I say
a lot of board meetings.
High touch corporate. People think, well, it's just an airport transfer. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, that's not.
How do you deal with complaints from the road, from your partner network?
Well, that's an important topic right there, and that's an area where we excel, and other companies are very poor at follow up with their customers. Very often, we'll let a customer know if there's a problem with his car before he even knows it. And the bookers are important. They need to be kept in the loop. And so we have a series of, actually, everybody in the company is empowered to handle an incident the minute it starts.
Right.
And it goes from a call center agent directly to the salesperson in charge of the account, to the management team. And one of the biggest things that we've done is we satisfy our customers about the way we handle our incidents. I can't tell you how many times we've heard that our biggest competitors don't get back to people even when they call and try and get a resolution, they don't get a call back. It happens all the time.
Do you think that the service aspect has gotten worse after the pandemic?
Yes. And I'm not going to say across the board, because I would never say that.
Right.
But I think just this world in general.
Yes.
The service levels have gone way down since COVID.
Yes. And I think a lot has to do with sometimes people are just happy when employees show up. But the reality is, the reality in our space is that the Uber Black mentality is still like 180 degrees behind the high touch corporate chauffeured mentality. And I think that's why I wanted you on this podcast, because you take care of the best of the best. So do you find that you've had more of a challenge after the pandemic, or is it really become muscle memory with your affiliates? Do they know what you expect?
Yeah,
yes, they know.
Yeah.
It pretty much runs itself. Now, once you get a good affiliate network in place, I do have to say it was much harder after COVID.
Right after COVID.
And I would say for the first year after COVID was really tough, because A lot of companies that you were working with went out of business. A lot of the
Yep.
small companies didn't survive. Now there's less availability in everybody's fleet because everybody had to sell off their fleet to stay alive. So now you're working with limited availability with your affiliates. So now you're trying to add on companies to we still have the work, might not be as much.
Right.
But, companies that were 30, 40 cars went down to 10, 15 maybe.
You have multiples in each city. So before COVID, you might have had a 40-car operator that did 85% of your work. Now you have to have 3 or 4.
In some markets, yeah. In
So
some
tell me
markets,
something.
you
If
do.
I'm a young operator and I have 5 cars, I do a good job, how am I going to get your attention? And what are you going to look for from me? Make the assumption I've got good-looking, brand new cars. What do you want to see from?
Well, the first thing is we're very loyal
Right.
to our affiliates. So it's hard to get into our system.
No,
Yep.
I wouldn't say it's
But
It's
people do
not.
get into our system.
yeah, they
So-
do. And
Right.
it's all about relationships.
Yep.
And it's all about, what I'm looking for. And I'll be straight up honest. Try to get an appointment with me in Vegas or at any of the shows that we go to. I'm in a suit, not sneakers, jeans. I'm sorry, but if I'm going to put my high-end clients in the back of one of your cars, you're not representing your company very well.
And by the way, when you give us your business card, have what city you operate in on it. We can't tell you how many
Drives
people
me
hand us
crazy.
business cards, and it doesn't tell us. We have to look up the area code to see what city they're in.
Right.
That goes up one side of me and down the other.
You
I
think
don't
about it.
know. It's hard, you have to have, and I love when people have their face on their business cards.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
a great idea.
So what you're telling me is you're not afraid of a small operator. If you have a need, if
No.
somebody goes out of business or somebody retires and sells, and
Been happening, like,
Oh.
so.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
I know.
24 was a good year for that. So you've already told me attire is critically important at the shows. Come dressed as if you're going to a job interview. Extremely
Yes.
good advice. How important is price for you?
It's important, and I work with everybody. So it's depending on where they're priced at. I'll work with everybody, I'm not going to really pound you in rates.
We're not looking for the lowest rate.
I'm just
No.
not.
We're looking for the best service and a reasonable rate.
And some other people have told me they're frustrated because every time they call, it's a different price. Ideally, how do you want to handle the price increases, or how do you want to handle the price book? Do you do it once a year?
So we're constantly loading rates, constantly, because there's new point to points every day. And once we get a point to point, it gets in our system. Once you have a new rate come across, or, say we're going to a brand new country, we'll make the rate, depending on the negotiated price with the affiliate. And when we add that into the system,
And that's a lot of work, but
it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
we understand that the
It's annoying calling an affiliate and asking for rates. First of all, I don't want my staff to have to take the time to do that. I want them to service the clients.
Right.
And I don't want to piss off the affiliates either, because
No,
that's
I know.
annoying when you're a small operator and you're trying to do everything yourself or with just a couple other people, and you have affiliates calling you off the wall.
Yeah.
That's what technology is for.
I was just going to say that, Tami. That's the technology
key.
limitations. The technology limitations we have in this industry make a hard job sometimes excruciating, because there is no universal. I can't go someplace and load my rates by zip code. It's
No.
not a repository. It's still quite a bit of manual work. And the reason why I picked you guys is because you're high touch. You absolutely are tracking that. You're tracking the trip. You're tracking the driver. You're not leaving things to chance. Some people, some networks I know don't know when the customer's in the car. They don't know the vehicle is on the way. But that's why you have the clients that you have. So what are turnoffs to you? let's start with when you're talking to the affiliate, and then we'll go to in the vehicle. What's a red flag for you when you call the affiliates or you deal with the affiliates, and what makes your job more
If
difficult?
they can't get us driver information,
That's huge.
Again, technology, right?
Again,
Technology.
technology. But the problem is it's our clients demand. So
Absolutely.
only our roadshow clients. Roadshow clients demand chauffeur information 24 hours prior. Reason being, they put it on a schedule for the
Yep.
bankers. They need that schedule done by the end of the day to
Yep.
give that to them tomorrow. And that has to have the chauffeur's name and cell phone. There's so many reasons, but being professional, I can't tell you how many calls I've had where the limo, they answer the phone, limo, okay.
dispatch.
Dispatch.
Dispatch. No,
Crazy.
I mean,
No.
I get it, but you don't have to give the whole spiel. Just Commonwealth Limousine.
Right.
How may I help
Right.
you?
How may I assist you? And it's the difference between calling a delicatessen and calling a 5-star restaurant. Okay.
Right.
And it's the same way when you walk into the 5-star restaurant, you expect eyes to be met by the person who's at that front desk. When you walk into a deli, you're lucky if they look up from the sandwich they're making. But we are the 5-star restaurant of the transportation industry. So then talk about the car, talk about the in-car experience, because you're trusting that chauffeur in the car is going to be on par with the level you deliver in Boston. Your people in Boston look like they could be the bankers. Your drivers look like they are the bankers.
Well, I hope so.
The last car I took, the guy had a better raincoat on than I did.
Oh,
Anyway,
I hope so.
So, especially in Boston.
Sometimes
So
not always.
talk about the in-car experience.
So the clean car,
Yep, that's number one.
number one, is clean and new. It can even be 3 years old.
No
Which is
smoking.
newer. No smoking, obviously.
No eating warm
Nope.
food, hot food.
Yep,
No cologne.
big one.
Yeah.
Big one.
Nope.
Big one. And I'm going to be very careful, but we have a lot of 1 or 2 car operators that for some reason love to wear a lot of cologne. I don't know why. No smoking, no
No
heavy
smoking.
colognes. What about etiquette when the passenger is in the car?
How's the temperature? Would you
Yep.
like the radio station?
Speak when spoken to.
And the biggest thing is
Don't talk about divorce or sports.
or religion,
Or
Politics. politics, please.
Yep.
And I think one of the biggest ones is right when you get in the car, confirm the destination,
100%.
because I can't tell you how many times the chauffeurs have dropped the clients off at the wrong location, whether it be their booker's fault on the client side or the driver's fault, but just confirm the destination, because you
Right,
don't know
it's
if that's
just-
going to change.
Or it's not our passenger.
Right.
Somebody's
Yeah.
walked up to the car thinking it's their car. They jump in. The driver takes off, and halfway there, the guy goes, No, I'm not going to LaGuardia. I'm going to JFK. Oh, wait a second. I'm supposed to be going to LaGuardia. It's
Yeah.
too late to find out now.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been as simple as, Mr. Lucci, I just want to confirm, Mr. Lucci, I'm taking you to LaGuardia. No, I'm not, Mr. Lucci. No, I'm not going to LaGuardia. It's simple stuff. Agreed.
It's better to say, Can I confirm your destination? Because you
There
might
you
have
go.
2 guys going to LaGuardia.
There you go. Good point. Good point.
Confirm your name.
Yeah.
So you had a good year in 24. We all agree 23 was a really good year. 24, everybody seemed to be happy if we could just keep up with those numbers. How optimistic are you about 2025?
I'm really optimistic now that, the election's over. Things are much more steady than they have been the past year. I think, we're going to have a good economy this year. Let's hope. So I'm looking forward to 2025 being a good year.
So you're going to come to Las Vegas. Are you going to be at the Affiliate Central or no?
Probably.
So give me some advice. If I already have number one, I'm going to look the part and I'm going to be in my suit as if I'm going to be literally chauffeuring you. What else do you want to hear from me?
Don't yell at us if we haven't given you any work yet.
There is a little bit, I get the sense from some people that there's a sense of entitlement. Well, why didn't you give me the work? It just doesn't resonate.
Again, it's about relationships.
It doesn't
really is.
resonate. It certainly doesn't resonate because you're not going to be on our list if you say that to us.
No.
You start yelling at us about
Yeah,
not giving you work.
We've had it
and it
happen.
happens all the time.
Yep. Well,
Wow.
at the end of the day, that's a good point. What else can get me off your list, or what would make it
Off?
so that
Oh,
what
off
if
the
I,
list?
if I'm off the list,
No.
when do you basically scratch me off?
So here's my biggest pet peeve. And I know I've talked to a lot of people that do affiliate work. Social media. Shut it down. There's a lot of people who ask for our work, but will bash affiliate work all over the place on social media.
Right.
And don't do affiliate work and this and that. And all I can say is if affiliate work can be great because they're going to be your salespeople. And you could, all of our affiliates, we've become very close friends with. So, yeah, I understand companies don't pay. We pay. Do your due diligence. Don't just generalize it to the affiliate. The affiliate world is terrible.
Right.
Do your due diligence on the companies that you're taking work from.
100%. And you in this episode, to me, first of all, about how you get started, I've seen it myself. One trip can change the trajectory of your business. Okay. But obviously you had an eye towards quality to begin with. As far as the affiliate piece, I think relationships is the key to everything, because if someone's going to look you in the eye and you know their face and you know who they are and how to reach them, I think they have a tougher time not paying you. But when you're taking random jobs from people you don't know, okay,
Yeah.
I think shame on them.
That's wrong. You shouldn't.
Right.
You shouldn't, unless you're doing your due diligence and calling some people. I wouldn't just do a one-off with somebody unless you're getting all the information that you need and getting a credit card and making sure you pre-authorize the credit card. And unfortunately, there are some people in this business that don't pay, and that's always been a pet peeve of mine.
And you know what? Sometimes the names have changed, but it seems to be always 1, 2, or 3 that don't pay. And my question, when I talk to clients at the time of sale, I say, why do you keep doing their business if they're 120 days back and they never really pay you down to zero? Do you think that it's changed for the better since after the pandemic as far as people paying?
No.
That's just, Ken, I think it's just going to be, it's a lifelong issue in this business, and it shouldn't be. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Look, it seems to me that the large operators in this business are the ones that have long payment times or short pay or things like that.
But you have to negotiate the terms.
It gives people talk about it online about not doing work for big companies. Well, there's big companies that pay regularly and are very responsible to their affiliates, like Commonwealth.
100%. I've honestly never heard a bad thing about Commonwealth.
We had a thing on deadbeat companies. Some idiot writes in that we're a deadbeat, that Commonwealth is a deadbeat company that we owe him money. It turns out that it was a charge for $145 where we didn't get his invoice and it hadn't gotten paid.
And it was only a month.
Do you know that on December 31st, we pay everybody up to date?
Right.
To date.
Right.
Every invoice that we received from them, even in the month of December, gets paid on December 31st. And we owe people, most of our affiliates, we owe zero going into the new year.
Right.
Now, we have a 60-day payment plan.
Right.
60 days from the day we get your invoice. But that's because a lot of especially our banks, can be slow paying, and we do have slow payers, and we want to be able to, at least be able to harvest some of our accounts receivable so that we can pay you within 60 days. So we're religious about it.
We pay the 15th or the 30th. But that's for our large volume affiliates that we've had this contract with for 15, 20 years, 10 years. a lot of the newer affiliates and the smaller ones that we don't do a lot of work with, or we just do minimal or whatever it may be, I work with you on that. And then you use our credit card. So it just depends. We work together on things like that.
It's all about the relationship. And what I don't understand is when I see online, well, don't do business with so and so. He called me last week and just gave me a job, and I've stopped responding or I've stopped querying. But my question is, well, did you ask anybody if they do business with them? Did you say, who else do you do business with that I may know? And what
You
there's
get a credit
also
card.
right, and there's also a lot of scams out there. And to me, I think it comes
No, there's
down to
tons.
I think it comes down to knowing the people that you do business with. You know, when I was an operator, I could tell you I've learned more from my failures than my successes in life. Thankfully, there have been a few less failures than successes. But anyway, I bought a company and I had a large network that I did business with. And I opened up to the guy and I said, listen, I'm going to the NLA or whatever it was show in New Jersey, and I'm buying a mini coach. And I said, you know, you owe me a substantial amount of money, and I need at least half that. And he said, absolutely, I'll get you that money. And he didn't do it. And I had to personally write a check. And I called him the week before the show, and I couldn't reach him. And I came back from the show and I said, I'm done. I'm done with all affiliates. Okay. So what did I do? I just took my insurance policy that was spread among affiliate work and my own work, and now it's all on my back, right? I took my best silent salespeople, right, and I threw them out the door because one guy was a bad pay. And it wasn't the bad pay that got me. It was the fact I couldn't get him on the phone. Okay. And I remember, talking to Tommy Mazza was my consultant back in the day. And I said, Tommy, I can't believe this. I can't even get this guy on the phone. Right.
This is when you took over Julie's.
This is when I took over Julie's. And I literally took a 180-degree turn. I said, no more affiliate work. And it was because one network.
I know.
Right.
I was one of them.
Sorry. Hey,
just let you know, in case you forgot, that was me.
But when I look back on it, I said, I mean, I'd made some short-sighted business decisions in my life, but that one it hurt me. It didn't hurt them. Okay. Because now what I'd tell people is if you've got 4 jobs on your own and you've got to have that guy on duty, or 3 jobs and you've got to have on duty for 8 hours, that affiliate work that you just took in the middle, that absolutely boosted your profitability. So it was literally only after I became a mature operator that I understood that. The other piece of that puzzle is an operator who's good size that says to me, I don't want to do farm out work because I don't know if I can trust somebody in LA to take care of my client. But we hit the nail on the head when we said, Dawson, if you didn't do this with your network and you didn't bring Tami on, you'd be the biggest 30-car operator in Boston. You probably would cap out at $5 million. So understanding the ecosystem in this industry is critically important. So it's all about the relationships you create. It's knowing the people that are on the other end of the phone. It's treating them with respect. It's appreciating their business and
us appreciating them. I mean, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them. And there's, relationships that we've had for 20 plus years, relationships that we've had, all along the way.
So where do you see the chauffeur industry 5 years from now? What are your concerns?
Well, I think it's going to be about the same as it is now, except, with better software. I don't think it's going anywhere because, autonomous cars are going to have their place, as did Uber and Lyft. But, quite honestly, Uber and Lyft never affected us in any way, except that it took some of our airport work away, which we didn't want anyway.
Right.
And you mentioned that earlier that Black Lane is doing all the Emirates work. It's unprofitable. Well, for them, it's not because they're just
They're probably
letting it
making
out
money
there
off of
and
it.
giving it to independent operators that will
One or
pay
two car
more.
operators.
That are going to charge you next to nothing for it.
But we took on the Virgin Atlantic account in Boston, and it was a marquee account, we thought.
Right.
But it turned out it was not a marquee account at all. I mean, everybody wanted it, but the prices were not there. And we had one flight that came in at 5:15 in the afternoon, at the height of rush hour, the height of our busiest period, and we'd have to have 15 or 20 cars for them, and they wouldn't let us farm out.
Right. And the margins were not there. They
No.
wanted high-end service. I agree with you as far as the financial services companies, pharmaceutical companies, Fortune 500 companies. I believe the only thing they really want from us is better technology. I think that they want a better technology experience. It's
Our
funny that
customers have actually come to us and asked us for better technology. And we have great technology in the industry, but they want more.
they do.
Well,
They
we
want.
we were like 60% on our GPS network wide,
Yep.
and we had customers coming to us. This is unacceptable. We need 100%. So now
Right.
we're at like 90, but we're still not at 100. That's a difficult thing to provide
It's really hard.
100% GPS location across a network of hundreds of operators,
Yep.
small
Yeah.
operators as well as big operators, but we're close now.
Getting
Just
there.
managing the churn of operators, but connectivity and capacity connectivity is going to be a big issue. Do you see autonomous hurting Commonwealth?
No, absolutely not. Our clients call us and scream if the chauffeur didn't even pick up the bag properly.
Right.
Service,
Luggage
opening
alone
the doors.
is the reason why they won't use it.
They didn't open my door.
And who knows what autonomous is going to be, because it's so expensive for an autonomous car now.
Yep.
And, I think that all these autonomous programs that are going on here in Phoenix and San Francisco, they're all heavily subsidized.
Right.
It's
Oh,
like
God, yeah.
Uber and Lyft in the early days when they were spending billions a year to
Yep.
compete against taxi.
Yep.
And that's what
absolutely.
autonomous is going to have. And I'll tell you something. I don't think urban areas are going to appreciate thousands of autonomous cars floating around their city.
No.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned that the reason why Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump are friendly is because Mr. Musk wants federal autonomous regulations, and they don't want to allow it just to go state by state. But you made a good point. Can you see those vehicles around the Back Bay of Boston?
No.
I mean, in
No.
streets that haven't really changed since the 1700s. I
No,
don't
you
see
talk
it.
about clogging up, about traffic and clogging up the streets. That's going to be a disaster.
Yep. The only
It already
thing
is a disaster in places like New York with Uber and Lyft.
yes.
They have 100,000 cars running in New York City. It's something like that.
And just because it's topical, have people reached out to you, or are they concerned with this whole congestion pricing or congestion surcharging in New York?
Too soon.
It just came out. So
Yep.
it basically comes out to 75 cents a trip.
We're on the 75 cents a trip congestion fee.
and
Yep.
we're going to have to charge
Nobody's
that
going to
back
complain
to the
about
client.
75%. All right,
75 cents. No, if they lose you, if they leave you over 75 cents, you didn't have them in the first place.
We didn't have a good
Right.
client.
Right.
So from an entrepreneurial perspective, this is from a bootstrap up story, and Brett Barinholtz is the one that spilled the beans that you were a taxi cab driver, and he spilled it on this podcast. I will tell you.
Oh,
So-
he did?
He did. You have to go back and listen to Brett Barinholtz. He spilled it. So you were a cab driver. You literally started from one car. You made incredibly good impressions on your clients. One specific client was Boston Magazine. You focused so much on quality. You got Best of Boston, which to me, those awards are fantastic, because if you're looking to make a big decision on any type of service that matters, you're going to look at those awards. That's an unbelievable way to build a brand. Then you hired this lovely lady because she knew corporate travel, and you got into global network.
Yep.
If you didn't, you'd probably be the biggest Boston operator, 30 to 40 cars, and you would have stopped from there. But
Yeah.
you wouldn't have 65% or 70% of the revenue you have today.
No.
No.
And
And
if
remote revenue is great because you're just sending it out.
90%.
You're taking the reservation now and then you're sending it out. And, the affiliate on the other side's doing all the work.
But you are really a master at transportation management and logistics. Your people, and because your touch points and how often you touch the affiliate and touch the client, you're managing every aspect. And if we have better tech, hopefully it'll be less labor. But
I hope
that's the
so.
secret to your success is you have high touch clients, but you also touch each part of the transaction several times to make sure it's right.
Yeah, at least.
It can be 20, 30 times
Depends on the trip and depends on how high touch it is.
with the changes, with the rerouting, with the redispatching. I mean, it could be a lot of touches.
So there is hope for the small operator to grow his business into a network, and it just takes it takes tremendous hard work and a lot more than just Google pay-per-click ads and a low price.
Right.
It takes a lot of work, 24/7. I mean, you give up your life.
I think it's close to the restaurant business. It's a 7-day-a-week commitment.
Absolutely.
And good salespeople.
And good management people, just good people across the board.
So last question. I walked into an operator the other day and I heard some pretty loud shouting. And the owner said to me, "Well, that's my dispatcher." And I said, "Who is he talking to?" And he says, "Oh, he's definitely talking to one of my chauffeurs." And I kind of walked out the door with a feeling in my head that this company had a cultural problem. And by the way, nobody down here. It was somebody that I had stopped in to see. Tell me how important it is, the culture of the business, the culture that you created within Commonwealth. You said you just had a 25-year anniversary party. What would you do? How would you describe?
A long time ago.
This is our 43rd year.
Oh, 40. I apologize.
We're coming up on our 50th.
That's right. I apologize. Tell me about the culture inside
Well,
Commonwealth.
the culture is treat people with respect. And whether it be an affiliate, obviously a client, whether it be, a coworker, we used to have so many issues with dispatch and our chauffeurs. I can't tell you. And you just had to squash that real quick because you're representing the company. We don't act like that. Dawson doesn't act like that.
Nope.
Nobody should act like that. You have to treat people with respect. You want to treat people the way you want to be treated. So we don't allow any of that. And we've gotten rid of people for that.
That to me is more of a taxi mentality or a black car mentality.
Yeah.
Left over from when when everybody needed a job, so to speak. Now I think the work ethic is a little bit different.
I think so.
Do you have a tough time attracting chauffeurs?
Oh, doesn't everybody?
Well, we use a lot of independent contractors in New York City now, and we have people waiting in the wings to come to work for us down there, which is terrific. And they're all very experienced, 20-year veterans, 30-year veterans that are coming to work for us. So New York City, we don't have a problem at all. And in Boston, our fleet's much smaller than it used to be. When we were a 95-car fleet in Boston, we were always short chauffeurs. Now we have 20 cars. Now we farm out to other operators in our own market, which we never did.
Right.
We would never farm out a job in our own market, but there's a new reality. We had to re-engineer our company after the pandemic, and this is what we did. Smaller fleets in both cities, a lot fewer employees. I mean, we had at one point 425 employees. Now we barely break 100.
Wow. And profit wise, you're doing well.
Making more money than we did before the pandemic.
Well, and that's really, and that's a message for the bigger operators, because there's a lot of them that listen to this, is if you've not permanently re-engineered your business, I don't see how you can be profitable anymore. I mean, you cannot have 200 car fleets for 30 days a year. So you have to depend on local operators, local IOs, local affiliates, etc. And I think I do think that the ones that have re-engineered their business, I do believe, and I see it, they are a lot more profitable than they were before the pandemic, and people are doing less revenue, but they're more satisfied. They are able to pay their people a little bit better or a lot better because they're more profitable. They don't have a huge
Exactly.
overhead.
And who wants a huge overhead anymore? Does anybody?
There's some. There's
Ken,
some.
I used to pay $125,000 a month in Boston and New York for rent.
A
Yeah.
month.
It's
Can't do
insane.
it.
We have
And
one.
that's one of the silver linings of the pandemic. Not that there were
Yeah.
many, but we've all embraced remote workers. Can you
Yeah.
imagine where we would be if we all had to go back to the big office buildings? And I think that's one of the things that people had to get comfortable with. They had no choice during the pandemic but
You
to
had to.
allow their workers to work remote.
You had to. And
Yep.
I'll tell you, it's the best decision we've ever done because we had so many people leave Boston
Yep.
because it was way too expensive and moved to Kentucky and, all around the world. We have call center agents all over the US and it's perfect. And when you need them, they'll jump on the phone if it's busy, overtime. Hey, can you just jump on the phones? It's really busy. No one calls out sick anymore. Everybody's happy.
They're not late for work.
They're not
Right.
late calling in sick.
We don't have personnel problems.
Personnel issues.
Who don't get along well with their
Their
Everybody's got
coworker in the
personal
office.
issues. I don't care if you're a small operator or a large operator. Everybody's got personnel issues. So this kind of wipes a lot of that away.
Well, you guys have seen to master the re-engineering. I mean, I know it wasn't an easy road, but you've emerged from the pandemic a lot leaner. And it seems to me you're still an extremely well-oiled machine, even though your business is completely different. Remote workers, you've embraced IOs, they appreciate your business. So the Commonwealth is, as I said, it's a tremendous boutique global network success story. So when we see you in Vegas, if someone wants your business, don't walk up in a pair of flip-flops and jeans. Well, she's not going to take you seriously.
No.
Make sure you have on your business card the market that you serve, the city that you serve,
Please.
and professionalism is the name of the game. And if that's key, and if you are lucky enough to become a Commonwealth company, an affiliate of Commonwealth, the relationship is really what matters. And I can tell you that I talk to everybody, and everybody has an immense amount of respect for the company and an immense amount of respect for the two of you. So that says a lot in the limousine industry.
My God. So much.
Yes, we brush past a couple of names in this podcast that we might bleep out that don't.
Here's a few if you really want to keep going.
There's a few. So
there's a few.
Tami Dawson from Commonwealth Worldwide, I really appreciate you coming on to the podcast. I will tell you, the episode is going to live live on Spotify and on YouTube, groundtransportationpodcast.com, and we will let you both know when the episode drops, as the kids say. And I want to also congratulate you, Tami, because neither one of us dropped the F-bomb on this podcast.
Can you believe it? I was trying. I'm being professional, and you did. I wasn't upset about anything, so you good.
Well, you don't want to listen to the one that I talk about M&A and finance, because I kind of do drop the F-bomb out of frustration sometimes with a few of my clients. But I'm with you. I think 2025 is going to be a good year, and I look forward to seeing you both.
Thank you for listening to the Ground Transportation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe to the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about PAX Training and to contact James, go to paxtraining.com. And for more information about driving transactions and to contact Ken, go to drivingtransactions.com. We'll see you next time on the Ground Transportation Podcast.